Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm so excited to be on here with you guys. Today is another Classes with Katelyn. So we are going to be going over our umbrella goals. I'm just going to give us all a few moments to settle in. Welcome to you all. If you're new here, I am going to be using our Define Planner. So this is our 2025 to 2026, August to July monthly weekly planner. Now, I have been hosting Classes with Katelyn throughout the latter half of July, every Tuesday, Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. And that is what we are going to be continuing today. So we are going to be setting up our umbrella goals. And I cannot wait to do this. We have a lot to go over, but I'm just going to wait a few moments. Good afternoon, Jenna. How are you? Welcome back. Long time no see, you guys. I am ready to go over umbrella goal planning. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, great. Just making sure. Oh, I am doing well. We had a lot of rain, so hopefully that'll let up on some of the heat because it was quite hot, even though I did like it. Hey, Lakin. Thank you. I just like to get us all that time to settle in. Grab your Define Planner if you haven't yet before we dive into our umbrella goal planning class for today. Hey, Mimi. Okay. So I want to slowly get this class going with you guys, and I wanted to start by welcoming you all back to Classes with Katelyn. Today's session is all about setting up your umbrella goals. One of the most important and foundational pieces of the Define Planner. That is what this is. So I'm just going to highlight that just for a little extra color. So if you've been following along with our classes, you know that we have already filled out section 1, which is going to include define yourself. It also includes define your year, setting up your personal mission statement, and most recently was our vision board session. And if you did happen to miss any, that is okay. They are up on red, so you can always tune in as well. And so today is when this all comes together. Today we are walking through how to set up your umbrella goals. So my goal for the end of this session is to have you all know how to create aligned, realistic, and practical goals for however long-term your goals might be, because they will have specific time ranges that we can dive into in a sec. But first, let's just start off with the basics. What even is an umbrella goal? So an umbrella goal is going to be a long-term goal. We have identified the following pathways for you. There's fitness, career, health and wellness, relationships, financial, and personal development. So we are going to be setting up umbrella goals in these different pathways, aka the different areas of your life. Now, these are not going to be random goals that you think you should set. No, the purpose of this is to root it in what you've learned about yourself. Hey, Galina. So I want to dive in to how you actually choose your own umbrella goals. So you are going to recognize that the powerful part is that you've already done all the work to help you discover what your goals should be. And you did that through section 1, because the reason we have you do section 1 is because this actually gives you clues as to what your long-term goals should be. And when it comes to look at these pages and see what shows up for you. What words or themes do you keep coming back to? What goals made it on your vision board? What values are in your mission statement? Those are what we are going to use to identify our focus. So when it comes to setting these up, I want you also to know that you can either set them all up at once or as you go, as time moves on. So don't feel any pressure to have a goal in every single pathway. That is not what this is about. It's about starting with intention. And so to help you start this process, ask yourself this question. What area of my life is asking for the most attention right now? Okay, let me just ask that one more time. What area of my life is asking for the most attention right now? So for example, if you've been feeling a little disconnected from your body, maybe this season is going to be the time to focus on your fitness. If you've been craving a creative spark, this could be the time where you start off with the personal development. And what classifies a good umbrella goal is that it's long-term, it's driven by your values, it's specific enough to guide your action, and it's flexible enough to grow with you. So something I just wanted to go over briefly was also the difference between goals. So for what I mean by that is in health and wellness, instead of writing get healthy, I want you to consider establish a movement routine that builds energy and reduces stress. Or for financial, instead of just do better with my money, let's have it be create a consistent savings habit so I can build financial peace. So let's start up this session and go over some of our umbrella goals based off of the personal mission statement that we wrote previously. As you are going through your own umbrella goals, I want you to start also by asking yourself what would change in my life 6 to 12 months from now if I committed to this? And that is going to help you recognize if this is an umbrella goal that you should be setting, because it should excite you and it should also challenge you. Okay, so let's start off with one that we can be a little more confident with, and that's going to be the personal development. I tend to start off with this one because there's always one goal I set here that I know I want to do, and that is a reading goal. I always set myself a reading goal, and so for this year, which I like to use different colored pens, again, it's up to you. I'm going to set my first goal as read 24 books this year. So, read 24 books this year. Okay. And that is just one personal goal that I always know I want to be consistent with and can set confidently. The next one I wanted to do was taking a look back at our personal mission statement. I want us to refer back to here because this is how you know if the goals you are setting are in line with that person you want to become, is that it will align with this mission statement that you've written out. So for instance, reading this over, we mentioned that we value authenticity, compassion, connection, and creativity. So what this tells us, we also mentioned that we want to stay grounded, to help others grow, and we identify what brings us joy. So taking a look at this personal mission statement, we can flip back to our health and wellness pathway because that is the next one that I wanted to start with, and I'm going to make that pink. And we want to come back to that idea that these have to be flexible enough to grow with us, so not too rigid. So for a health and wellness goal, because of what we just mentioned, let's establish it as we want to stay grounded. And as I'm going through these, you guys, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Please feel free to share your own goals as well. So we know that I wanted to stay grounded. So we are going to do this through nurturing. You'll see where this connects to in just a moment. A mindfulness routine. So earlier on today's live, we were talking a little bit about how we wanted to focus on that mindfulness aspect. And the reason I was confident in focusing on that this upcoming month is because I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted this to be my health and wellness goal, is to establish or nurture a mindfulness routine that supports my peace and my presence. Actually, I'm going to add the word joy in there because that was also in our mission statement. So my joy, peace, and presence. And when I dive into a little further in this class, we'll get into how we can work on this on a monthly, weekly basis and the importance of doing so. But first, before we get into that, I want to just keep going through different examples of what types of goals you can be setting in your umbrella goal planning page. So after you have that health and wellness goal, you can always choose to add another one. So maybe another one would be that specific create a sustainable lifestyle around wellness. So you remember how we talked about eating healthy or just get healthy in general? Instead, let's have it be create a sustainable lifestyle around wellness. The key word being sustainable. Okay. Now, the next one that I tend to set after I go through the health and wellness is fitness, because they are often connected in different ways. And so, for instance, you saw in that personal mission statement, and if you didn't, I just want to refer back, that we also included moving our body. Okay, so that's going to be something that's very helpful for all of us to do. And that's something that's important to us. And so for fitness, we're going to lean into that. We want to identify our umbrella goals that will align with our mission statement, because ultimately that pushes us closer to our authentic self and that person that we want to become, our best version of ourselves. And so we always want to make sure that we are aligning our goals with something that truly brings us fulfillment, that brings us joy. And so we want to keep our intention gentle and tied to the connection of our goal rather than the performance, how it all looks. So what I mean by that is, let's find some ways to move our body consistently but in ways that spark joy, because one thing I've been hearing a lot on live is that balance that everyone has a hard time of keeping. I mean, I want you guys to refer to your balance your plate exercise that we had completed. And I remember talking to you all about how everyone was a little nervous on how this year they would be able to balance their fitness with working, with family. And so I think one way that we can all be intentional about that is doing so in a way that sparks joy, because that's going to be we are going to want to add that to our routine, to add that to our lifestyle. We also want to find different connection points, so different ways to connect throughout it, because again, it's one of our values is that connection. And so that's not just with others, that's also with ourselves. And whether it's through that mindfulness, whether it's through fitness, those are the types of connection points that you can bring up within yourself and with others. Okay? As you are going about this, here's just another couple points I want you to consider. Is this a goal that reflects the version of me I'm growing into? Or does this support my values in my mission statement? That's what it needs to come back to. The next one I wanted to go over was relationships. So for this one, let's do yellow. Nope, not yellow. I'm only doing pink, purple, blue. Let's do pink. That makes sense. You know, relationships, I feel like we connect them with pink anyway. Okay. So what did we write in our mission statement that connects with this relationships pathway? We value kindness, and we also want to bring out the best in others. We also want to live a life that is filled with love. Okay? So what is a long-term goal for relationships? I also, as you guys, I'm going through this, I want you guys to write in your own long-term goals if you're comfortable doing so, or if there's ever any confusion or questions that come up along the way, just let me know, and I'm always happy to clarify. For the relationships pathway, maybe you want to show up fully with, I think I want to connect it back to that presence, because I've been talking a lot about that lately on live and with that personal mission statement of showing up and being fully there. Honesty. And a desire to bring out the best in others. And that connects us back to our mission statement. Now, as I'm thinking about this, it's also bringing up another goal that would actually connect back to our fitness pathway. And so one thing that can be really helpful with connection is trying to find new ways to expand your community, to build on your community. And to do that, if we're trying to move our body in ways that spark joy, but we also want to continue with that connection. For relationships, maybe you try to expand your community through new classes. I'm not going to do that in the fitness because this type of class could look differently. Maybe it's a Pilates class, but maybe it's a pottery class. Maybe it's a crocheting group. So expand my community. Through new, I'm going to write classes / experiences. But you see how, as we were talking about this one pathway, we were also starting to think about that connection of our personal mission statement and how it could lead us into another long-term goal. The next one I wanted to talk about was financial, just because that is also right here on the page. So we're just going to highlight this one in a blue. Now, one example I had mentioned earlier of the difference in goal setting and writing out your goals is the difference between writing get better at my finances and saving long term or coming up with an investment plan. And so we wanted to make sure that we have enough time the finances to support the new classes we want to try through spending time with others, whether it's going out to dinner or just trying new things. So let's narrow down this financial pathway and really create a financial system to support the life that we are trying to live. So specifically, this is going to connect us back to that why behind what we are trying to do with this pathway. So why are you trying to save? Having that why is actually going to push you closer and help you connect more with your goal. So create a financial system that supports a life I would say filled, because the reason we're doing this is to connect back to that mission statement of what we want our life to be filled with. So a life filled with creativity. I would say freedom and peace of mind. Okay. And then the last one I wanted to come back to was career, just to wrap up how to set up your long-term goals. And again, I really hope this is clear and making sense to you all. If there's any questions, just feel free to let me know in the comments. Okay. For career. Now, it's really important here to find that we are all having purpose in our lives. So making sure that we are coming back to that concept of purpose, no matter what part of life it's in. So with career, we want to make sure that great question. What would a good career goal to be for a stay-at-home mom? So I personally think being a mom is a career. Okay, so I think personally, I would have it be a goal connected to that because that's one of the hardest jobs out there. And so maybe it's you want to learn how to, I'm trying to think about what part of your day could be bringing you a little struggle, because I remember you talking about how you spent a lot of your time meal prepping and going to the grocery store, right? So somehow for your career pathway, it could be managing time spent between cooking, grocery store, and making more time for things that either bring you joy or help you build the connection points. So I know when people say career, they technically think it's an office job. It's going somewhere to do something, right? But I want you guys to know that being a mom is a career. And so anything you want to focus on in terms of being a mom can go here for your goals. So if maybe you're trying to help a kid get to college, or coming up with that, I am trying to think about different things that would be a problem for a mom, like everything, but trying to take the load off of you a little bit and trying to figure out a way that you can actually enjoy your time on a daily basis more. Finding a schedule for meal planning. That way you aren't spending so much time having to meal prep every single week. That could be a goal that's under career. Yes, maybe planning time with baby and activities or a kid's enrichment. Planning more trips with your children that are more to museums, enrichment centers. Quality time with your partner. That is also a career too, because you have to balance all sorts of things. I know technically that would be under relationships, but it could be both. Yes. Okay. So Lakin, I hope that helps too. If not, let me know and I can come up with more. Yes, that's it. That's the word. Streamline. Perfect. Okay, I'm glad we could talk that through. It's always a little tricky. In this case, I'm going to write build a career. Now again, this word career could literally mean anything. Okay? That's why I like it, because it could apply to being a stay-at-home mom. Hey, Kelly. It could also apply if you are a student using this planner. It could apply to being a student. I want to make sure that I'm always building a career that is rooted in my authenticity, creativity, because that's really important to me, and rooted in helping others. Another thing for career could also be building your confidence in public speaking. Okay. And so that right there is how I would go about setting up your umbrella goals. Now, I also want to dive a little bit into how we can break those goals down on a monthly, weekly basis so that we are all clear on how this goal planning system works. So I want to flip to the August spread that we set up earlier today. So this morning when we were on here, we had talked about how health and wellness was our pathway focus. Now, at the time, I had planned out ahead of time that I wanted it to be that specifically because I knew the pathway I wanted to focus on, the umbrella goal that I wanted to focus on in August was building habits that support peace and presence. But I want to take a step back and I want to approach this as though this is not completely filled out yet, okay? So when you are approaching your monthly calendar, I want you to take a step back and I want you to start by thinking, what pathway, what area of my life needs more attention this month? It can be any of these pathways. It could also, you can always list out more than one. In this instance, I looked at my monthly reflection from last month and I connected with how I was feeling and I thought my health and wellness had been a little neglected and I really wanted to make sure that I was realigning myself with that part. So I chose an umbrella pathway focus of health and wellness. Okay. Then I want you guys to imagine that you are starting off with just one. Okay. So before you choose any other pathway, you're just going to start with that one. So health and wellness. But then it's important that on a monthly basis, you are as specific as possible. So considering, okay, which part of me, which umbrella goal is the one I am focusing on this month? For us, I knew I wanted to really focus on building the habits that support peace and presence. And so I am flipping back and forth, but I did abbreviate this one right here because our long-term goal, our umbrella goal is to stay grounded and energized by nurturing a mindfulness routine that supports my joy, peace, and presence. So I went ahead and I really narrowed this down for August to focus on nurturing or establishing a mindfulness routine. I took that part of our goal and focused it on the peace and presence because that is what I wanted to break down. So the way that this structure is set up is that you're not just setting up your long-term goals and then having to figure out a way to accomplish them. No. We have you actually break it down even further. So first, it's on a monthly basis because this is going to give you a measurable timeline. It's something specific enough that's going to allow you to make progress consistently. So focusing even further, we have our monthly action item of let's develop a consistent mindfulness routine. Okay. So then what you are going to do next, which is what we do on Mondays together, is you are going to flip to the next page. Now, this one here was part of our example for a different live. So I'm going to go ahead and use this week as our example. So let's just grab, I wanted to use a red pen because now, let's say you had more than one pathway. That is when, sorry, I should have taken a step back there for you. After you've identified your monthly action item for this one umbrella goal, that is when you can ask yourself, okay, do I want to add in another pathway? If the answer is yes, you will proceed to do the exact same thing in terms of that goal. If the answer is no, you are going to flip the page over. This is not sold out, no. So the larger B5s are available, Trisha, in the Tranquil and the Sage. The A5s are available in every color possible. So, sorry about that. When you flip the page to go to your weekly, I want to make sure, Trisha. Yeah, absolutely. So when you come up here, let's say you did have more than one pathway, and if this is getting confusing, just let me know. But let's say you had more than one, you would pick which specific pathway you have time for. So let's carry over our health and wellness here. We know, okay, this week, we are really going to schedule in time for our health and wellness goal. So we are going to go down in this bottom corner here, and we are going to see, okay, first, let's break down our monthly action items into weekly action items. So you flip back one more time to that monthly action item, and you carry it over because you need to be seeing this goal as much as possible. That's what keeps us focused and connected to our why. So we are going to write, develop a consistent mindfulness routine. Great, but we can't just stop there. We need to take it one step further because as a human being, we need to be constantly seeing progress in order to keep that motivation going. Because how many of us have just set a long-term goal, aka you've set a New Year's resolution, and then someone asks you it literally probably 3 months later and you're like, I have no idea what it was I wanted. That's because you weren't making progress over time because it was just this abstract idea. So instead, we want to make sure that our goals are broken down so every day, every week, we are making that progress. So what could we do this week to build on that mindfulness routine? Well, maybe we want to start by seeing what techniques are out there. So what if we tried, I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking about it, about what is a mindfulness technique and what could we try out? What if this week actually, instead of trying out a bunch of different ones, we tried one specific one? What if we tried a technique called thought labeling? So I am going to list out focus on thought labeling. And what this is going to allow us to do is to recognize what it is that we really need in that mindfulness routine. Because in order to establish a routine, we need to know where the actual problem lies, right? Otherwise, the routine's going to fall flat. And so if we figure out what thoughts are really getting in the way, instead of getting caught in those anxious loops, we can try to interrupt them. And that way, we can also maybe keep a list of what those thoughts are. We're going to call it a log. Keep a log of thoughts, or keep a log of, thoughts. And that's going to reveal to us what we can implement into our mindfulness routine to conquer that issue, if that makes sense. I also just like to draw an arrow here to represent that I am breaking down this goal into a further weekly action item. So that is one technique that we could try to help us reach this goal of our monthly action item. That is what it's all about. Now, to level that up even more, you'll see here in our daily routine tracker, we have that mindfulness tracking. This right here is where we can come on a daily basis to track whether or not we are doing this. Okay, so finding a way to connect this weekly action item with your daily routine tracker or your mood or any of the trackers that are on here is going to help increase the likelihood of you accomplishing these. But there's one more step after this, okay? One more. You need to schedule it in. So you need to make sure that you are scheduling in time for this weekly action item. When it comes to specific ones that include, maybe it's going to the gym 3 times a week, that is when you can schedule it into morning, afternoon, or your evening box 3 times a week. But I want to step out of that because that is a little more straightforward than some of the goals I'm sure you guys are dealing with, right? And so if your goal this week is to focus on this mindfulness technique and to keep a log, I want you to do a little check-in with yourself at the end of every afternoon. Or pick a certain time of day that works best for you. So that way you can see, okay, have I done this yet? On a sticky note, you could write thought labeling and have it in front of you all the time. So let me write in a reminder here to check in on my thoughts. Have you kept a log today? If not, this is going to give you that room to refer back to those thoughts that you've been having or to really be more intentional about it in the evening session. Okay? Scheduling in that time or that reminder is the only way that you are going to be able to keep it in the forefront of your mind and make sure you are getting it done. Okay, you guys, does that make sense? And then the real last step in all of this will be the monthly reflections. And this is where you have the time to do that journaling exercises on your goals and how they went. Does that make sense, you guys? I want to make sure we're all clear on our goal planning system. If there's any other questions, just let me know. Okay. Yay. Wait, I'm so glad to hear that. Okay. Thank you, Jenna. You guys, I want to keep this live going, but we are going to be gearing it a little bit in a different direction. So I want to, if you were here specifically for the class, I wanted to thank you. And I am so grateful for each of you that showed up. And I want you guys to be grateful and appreciate yourself too, because you're doing the hard work of showing up, of learning about who you are. And that way, long term, you are going to be navigating each day with purpose.